Hi, Software Requirement Engineering Lecture 5. This presentation will explain the important step of requirement engineering process. It is a crucial part of making software successful. We will break down the process to make it easier to understand. Number 1, Feasibility Study. Number 2, Software Requirement Elicitation and Analysis. Number 3, Software Requirement Specification. Number 4, Software Requirement Validation. And finally, Software Requirement Management. Let's see. Why we write abstract requirements? Why abstract? If a company wishes to let a contract for a large software development project, it must define its needs in a sufficiently abstract way that a solution is not predefined. Different ways of meeting the client organization needs. Why write? The requirements must be written so that the several contracts can bid for the contract. Once a contract has been awarded, the contractor must write a system definition for the client in more details. A requirement will be used to validate what the software will do. Key activities is in requirement engineering simplified as elicitation. This is about gathering what everyone wants from the software. We talk to different people involved like users and managers using things like interviews or surveys to understand their needs. Analysis. Once we have all the requirements, we carefully look at them to make sure they make sense and don't clash with each other. We want to catch any problem early on. Specification. We write down all the requirements clearly so everyone knows what we are aiming for. These documents help guide the development team. Validation. We double check that what we have written down matches what people actually want. We might show them prototype or have discussion to make sure we are on the right track. Management. This is about keeping track of any changes on the requirements over time. We need to make sure everyone knows what's been decided and we prioritize what needs to be done first. Requirement engineering process. Introduction. Requirement engineering is a comprehensive process that involves a series of activities aimed at gathering, analyzing, documenting, validating, and managing requirements throughout the software development lifecycle. It ensures the final software product meets business needs and user expectations. Activities gather requirement involve collecting requirement from stakeholders through various techniques such as interviews, surveys, and workshops to understand their needs and expectations. Analyzing requirement requires through analysis of gathered requirements to ensure completeness, consistency, and feasibility. It identifies potential conflicts or ambiguities that need resolution. Documenting requirements, it involves documenting the analyzed requirement in a clear, concise, and ambiguous manner using textual description, diagram, use cases, and other artifacts. Validating requirements focuses on ensuring that our specified requirements accurately represent stakeholders' needs and expectations. This may involve review, walkthrough, or prototype to confirm alignment. Managing requirement involves managing changes to requirement over the software development lifecycle, includes version control, traceability, and prioritization of requirements. Interactive and collaborative requirement engineering is an iterative and collaborative process that involves stakeholders from various domains and disciplines. It emphasizes continuous communication, feedback, and adoption to ensure that evolving business needs and user expectations are addressed effectively. Importance. Effective requirement engineering is essential for project success as it lays the foundation for the entire software development life cycles. It helps mitigate risk, minimize rework, and ensure that the final software products meet stakeholders' expectations and business objectives. Requirement engineering process in a visual. Feasibility study. It involves evaluating various aspects such as technical, economical, legal, and operational factors to determine whether the project is feasible and worth pursuing. Purpose the It helps stakeholders make informed decision about whether to proceed with the project, allocate resources effectively, and mitigate potential obstacles. Component assessing whether the proposed solution can be implemented using available technology and resources. Economic feasibility evaluating the cost effective of the project including development, operational, and maintenance cost compared to potential benefits. Examining legal and regulatory requirements including compliance with laws, regulations, and intellectual property rights. Operational feasibility assessing employees' readiness for the new software like analyzing the impact of the proposed solution, existing process system, and stakeholders. Schedule feasibility assessing the project timeline and deadlines to ensure that the project can be completed within a reasonable time frame. Importance it enables stakeholders to make informed decisions, prioritize projects effectively, and allocate resources efficiently based on a realistic assessment of project feasibility. Requirement elicitation and analysis. Requirement analysis elicitations involves identifying, gathering, and documenting requirement from stakeholders. It employs techniques that interview, survey, observation, and workshop to effectively gather requirements. Requirement analysis focuses on understanding and refining gathered refinement to ensure completeness, consistency, and feasibility. It involves identifying stakeholders, prioritize resolving conflicts, and prioritizing requirement based on business values and constraint. Activities understanding requirement, analyzing customer feedback to determine specific feature and functionality desired in a new software product. Refining requirements, clarifying ambiguous requirements by conducting follow-up meeting with the stakeholder to gather additional details. Prioritizing requirements, prioritizing requirements based on their impact on business goals and technical feasibility. Resolving conflicts, negotiating between different departments to reconcile conflicting requirements for a new data management system. Process Initial process phase where requirements are identified with the help of customers and existing system process. Stakeholder inputs are collected to understand their needs and expectations. Analysis requirements are analyzed to identify inconsistencies, defects, omissions, etc. They are described in terms of relationship and conflicts are resolved during this phase. Problem encountered gathered all and only the right people involved, ensuring relevant stakeholders are included in the requirement elicitation process to capture comprehensive requirements. Stakeholders often don't know what they want. Stakeholders may have vague or evolving requirement requiring iterative elicitation and classification. Stakeholder express requirement in their terms. Translating stakeholders' requirement into technical language can be challenging due to different terminology and understanding. Stakeholder may have conflicting requirements, resolving conflicts between different stakeholder requirements to ensure consistency and alignment. Requirement change during the analysis process. Requirement may evolve or changing during the analysis phase, requiring flexibility and adaptability in the process. Organizational and political factors may influence system requirement. External factors such as organizational policies, politics, or constraint may impact the elicitation and analysis process. Its importance, requirement, elicitation, and analysis are crucial steps in ensuring that our final software product meets stakeholders' need and expectation. They lay the foundation for successful software development by identifying and clarifying requirement effectively. Technique, Techniques of requirements elicitation, interviews, conducting interviews with the hospital staff to gather requirement for a new patient management system. Surveys, distur- uh, dis- disturb- dis- distributing online surveys to students to gather feedback or feature of for a new educational software application. Focus group, bringing together teachers from different schools to discuss their needs and expectations for a new grading system. Observation, shadowing retail employees to observe their workflow, identifying pain points in the current points of sale system. Prototyping, developing a prototype of a mobile banking app to gather feedback from user on its usability and functionality. Selecting criteria, when choosing a requirement elicitation technique, consider factors such as the project scope, stakeholder availability, communication preferences, and the level of detail needed. Importance, effective requirement elicitation techniques are essential for gathering accurate and comprehensive information about stakeholders' need and expectation, ensuring that the resulting software system meets their requirement and satisfy their goals. Software requirement specification definition. Software requirement specification is a document created by a software analysis after collecting requirement from various sources, including customer inputs written in ordinary languages. It is the analysis responsibility to translate these requirements into technical languages for development teams understanding and benefits. Purpose, the goal of requirement specification is to articulate the requirements in a format that is understandable to all stakeholders, including developers, testers, project managers, and end users. It serves as a blueprint for the development team, guiding them in building software according to the defined requirements. Components, textual description, written description, describing the login functionality including authentication requirement and error handling. Diagrams, creating a flowchart to depict the order processing workflow in a e-commerce systems. Use cases, describing use case for placing in order or an online shopping website. User stories, as a registered user I want to receive email notification for order update to track my purchases. Other artifacts, creating a prototype for the user interface to visualize the layout and functionality of the software. Software requirement specification model used, entity relationship, ER diagrams, designing the ER diagrams to represent the relationships between customer orders and product in a database. Data flow diagrams, DFDs, developing a DFD to illustrate how information flow between different modules of a software system. Data dictionaries serve as a repository to store information about all items. Creating a data dictionary to define the attributes and data types used in the system. Best practice of for creating effective SRC document, maintaining clarity, ensuring clearly defining terminology and using consistent language throughout the documents. Involving stakeholder, conducting regular meeting with stakeholder to review and validate requirements. Ensuring traceability, creating a traceability matrix to link such requirements or its corresponding design and test cases. Importance, software requirement specification ensure a common understanding of project requirement among stakeholders and development teams, facilitating effective communication and regarding the risks of misinterpretation or error during the development process. Software requirement validation. Software requirement validation ensure that the documented requirements accurately represent stakeholders' needs and expectations. It involves reviewing, testing, and verifying requirements to ensure their correctness, completeness, and consistency. Purpose, The goal of requirement validation is to identify and correct any deviations or discrepancies in the requirement early in the development process. This helps prevent misunderstanding and reduce net rework and ensure that the final software products meet stakeholders' expectations. Validation criteria, practical implementation, verifying if the system can handle a large volume of transactions within the specified response time. Correctness and functionality, ensuring that the login functionality allows user to authenticate securely and assess the system. Ambiguity, clarifying unclear requirement regarding user roles and permissions. Completeness, checking if all user interaction scenarios such as error handling and edge cases are documented. Descriptive clarity, ensuring that the technical terms and jargon are defined or explained for non-technical stakeholders. Techniques, walkthrough, detailed reviews, conducting a walkthrough session with the project team to discuss and clarify requirements. Reviews, peer reviewing the requirement documents to identify and discrepancies or missing information. Prototyping, developing a prototype for user interface to demonstrate key feature and gather user feedback. Simulation, simulating user interaction to validate system response times and performance under different scenarios. Importance, requirement validation is essential for ensuring the quality and reliability of the final software product. It helps minimize the risk of error, misunderstanding, and discrepancies in the requirement specification, leading to a more successful development process. Benefits, every validation of requirement mitigates risk, minimize rework, and ensure that the final software product meets stakeholders' need effectively. Detecting and resolving issues in requirement early in the development process saves times and resources, ultimately leading to a more successful software project. Software requirement management. Requirement management is the process of systematical managing changes to requirement throughout the software development lifecycle. It ensures that requirements are accurately captured, communicated, and adapted to meet stakeholder evolving needs. Key aspects, emerging of new requirements. Managing these new requirements ensure they are integrated effectively into the project. Changing priority of requirement. Managing changing prioritize ensure that resources are allocated appropriately. Dynamic business and technical environments. The business and technical landscape surrounding the project may evolve during the development. Requirement management adapt to these changes, ensuring software remain aligned with stakeholders' expectation. Process, tracking and controlling changes, identifying the source of requirement change, assessing its implications, and deciding whether to incorporate it into the project. Version control, using version control software to maintain a history of revisions and ensure documenting integrity. Traceability, tracing a software feature back to its originating requirement to understand its purpose and context. Communication, organizing regular meeting or status update to keep stakeholder informed about requirement changes and project progress. Monitoring and reporting, generating regular reports on requirement implementation status, highlighting any delays or issues. Software requirement management tools, version control system, software tools that help manage changes to documenting and facilitate collaboration among team members. Issue tracking system, tools used to log, track, and managing changing requests related to requirements, ensuring that all changes are documented and addressed. Benefits, ensure that changes to requirement are systematically evaluated and implemented. reducing the risk of error and misunderstanding. Ensure enhanced transparency and traceability, allowing stakeholder to understand the evaluation of requirement and the impact of changes on the projects. Importance: effective requirements management is essential for ensuring that the final software product meets stakeholder needs expectation. It minimizes the risk of errors, misunderstanding, and rework during development, leading to a more successful and satisfactory outcome. So finally, and thanks for watching. If you enjoy the content, consider subscribing, hitting the like button, leaving a comments, and sharing it with others. Thank you.